Hey guys, what's up? This is Decron, aka the Fitness DJ, and I'm making this video to share my experience with you about the paleo diet. So as we know, nutrition plays a big role in our fitness and our health and how we feel. And there's many options out there in terms of different, nutritional philosophies and how you can eat and, principles to follow. And, every one of these philosophies has their pros and cons. And I'm not really an expert on any one particular one, but I have experimented and I had some success with the paleo diet. So I wanted to sort of give you some background about it and share some reasons why you may want to try it in your own nutritional habits. So a little bit about the paleo diet. So let's break down the word. The word is paleo and diet. So paleo stands for Paleolithic. This refers to a time in history where humans used very basic tools. It was also called the Stone Age, and they ate very basic things, very basic foods. And so that period was from about 2.5 million to about 10,000 years ago. So in and of itself, it was a long period of time. And the proponents of paleo claimed that because it was a long period of time and because it was sort of an important part in our development as human beings, our digestive systems were formed in that time and they became accustomed to eating these very basic foods. So what can you eat on the paleo diet? So you can eat things like vegetables, you can eat fruits, you can have nuts, and you can have meat. There's really no limit on how much meat. These are basically your staple items. And the idea is that you eat these items and they're sort of like picked raw in the case of a vegetable or a fruit, or they're caught wild like an animal, and you can eat the animal meat and get your protein source from there. So the main stipulations of paleo are really not to eat anything processed, and also to avoid things like dairy, to avoid corn, avoid soy, anything that's sort of made by man or manufactured, you want to avoid. And to me, that as a philosophy is actually pretty good. It has a lot of benefits. To avoid processed foods and avoid things that are difficult for us to digest. So again, because we sort of in our DNA, we were brought up to eat these basic foods like vegetables and meats, our bodies are built for that. That's really what the philosophy puts forth. Now that's a little bit about the diet. Let me tell you what I experienced when I tried it. So for me, I didn't exactly, read about paleo one day and decide to do it. I sort of more backed into it. And what I mean is I had taken on a number of training programs. I had read books about nutrition and training. I'd done programs with trainers. And it seemed like more and more the food choices I was allowed to have on these training programs were very similar to what paleo was recommending. So it was like, avoiding processed foods, not having dairy, not having corn. And I started realizing that there's really similarities between, training for results. And I did get good results when I followed these programs. So there was like a similarity between eating that way and what paleo was proposing. And so for me, I was like, okay, I guess I'm eating kind of paleo. But what I did was to make it a little bit more sort of flexible and easier to adhere to, I made some modifications. What I mean is you're not really allowed to have grains on the paleo diet. So that means, you can't have bread, you can't have pasta, you can't have cereal. And what I did was I figured, let me do some things that'll just make it easier for me. Like I can't restrict everything. So what I do, at least for like my carb source, I like to have some starchy carbs in my diet. They help fuel my day, they help fuel my workouts. So what I do is I put in some paleo-friendly starches in my diet. So those include things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, plantains. You can have any of these items. They're gluten-free, and while they're not adherent to the strict paleo guidelines, the paleo community sort of accepts these as sort of substitutes or acceptable as part of the diet. So there's that, and then of course an occasional a dessert or a cheat meal. I mean, I have a hard time saying no to apple pie, so things like that I put in my diet. And the other thing to keep in mind with paleo is that And this is pretty debated, but you're not allowed to have, technically not allowed to have legumes. So legumes are things like beans, lentils, peas. There's some debate about it because you think, well, those are natural and you can pick those, and why would that be a problem? The paleo adherents say that those legumes actually are difficult to digest, and they can cause what's called leaky gut syndrome. Again, that's pretty debated, and every now and then I do have like chickpeas, for example. I love hummus, so I substitute and I put that in because it just makes it more manageable for me. But again, I do a modified paleo diet. I've seen great results. When I started following these paleo principles, I felt better. Ultimately, when I removed gluten from my diet, I didn't realize how much it was impacting me until, later on I would have some gluten. Let's say I would have a sandwich with bread, and it would actually make me feel pretty bloated, and it wasn't digesting very well, and I just didn't feel good having it. So it made me realize that, like eating gluten is not so good for me, the way my body's structured. And in fact, studies have shown that gluten does cause inflammation in your digestive system. So, it was good for me to sort of eliminate that, put it back in, and see the impact. Same thing with brown rice. Brown rice also turns out it bloats me. A lot of people recommend it over white rice, but it just didn't sit well with me. So, learnings like that helped me understand my nutrition better, how my body responds to things. And like I said, I felt lighter. Another benefit is, my belly shrunk ultimately because I wasn't eating these things that bloated my belly anymore. So, I got that six-pack looking good. So, the belly was nice and tight. And overall I had more energy because my body wasn't working as hard to process these foods that are difficult for it to consume. So ultimately, those were my results, feeling better, looking better, and just digesting easier. And, that's sort of what I want to propose to you and encourage you to just take it on and try some of the paleo principles. Some of the advantages are it's a very practical diet in the sense that you can find the ingredients anywhere. Every supermarket or grocery store will have vegetables and fruits and meat and oils. Like, you can find that everywhere. It's easy to cook. And another benefit is that it's actually proven. Besides me, it's a super popular dietary choice, and there's a lot of people that stick to it and they feel great on it. And then finally, it's simple to cook and to adhere to. I'll give you a quick guideline. I've heard, if you want to understand if something is paleo or not, you have to just ask yourself, can I grow it, can I pick it, or can I kill it? So if you can do one of those three things, it's paleo friendly. If you can't, for example, bread, for example, is you can't cook that, grow it, or kill it, so that wouldn't be acceptable. So anyway, that's sort of like what I experienced about paleo. I'll give you some reason as to why you may want to try it. And to make it easier for you, I'm going to put some information below this video to give you a head start. So I'm going to link to a page where you can see tips on how to incorporate the paleo lifestyle. There'll be recipes, there'll be sort of a blueprint and cheat sheets. So it is a bit of a transition to get there. Like I said, you're restricting a lot of things that maybe currently you're eating, like dairy, like breads, etc. But this information will help you kind of take on the diet and the lifestyle and incorporate it more easily into your daily routines. And I really think you're going to feel great. So go out there, try it, experiment. Like I said, there's no perfect diet that everyone should follow. We each have to find what works for ourselves and our individual bodies. But hey, it really worked for me, and I encourage you to give it a shot. So check it out. Let me know how paleo does for you, and keep going with those goals. Thanks.